Welcome back to my Power of Program series. We are in week 3 now, so we'll do a recap of week 2, building the Canvas app for a school library. And I'll show a preview of the Power Automate Cloud Flows. So last video I said that the Canvas app course would take a lot of work, over 6.5 hours of video. Turns out that it was not the case. So the time that you see here on the left side, 87 minutes, that's not the time of the video, but the actual time of the whole module you worked through. So if I would start the video, you can see that it's 28 minutes. So a lot less, about 1/3 almost. And I watched the videos at 1.5 speed. And I had two monitors side by side, so I could work through it pretty quick. And if we check here, we can see that I spent a total of 6 hours, including the Q&A meeting of the previous week. I spent 6 hours on the Canvas apps. So what did I do in the Canvas app module? Well, the previous module, we imported this Loans Manager application, which is a model-driven app, as we're using Forms. And we worked with this a bit, added some data. And now in the Canvas app module, we rebuilt the same application, but with a Canvas app. So we dragged in all these labels, buttons, and we set some functions. We also had our first look at using PowerFX. So this one, so even though it's low code, we still get to write some code. And then PowerFX is a language that we can use in Power Platform to interact with all these elements. So even though it took less time than I expected, it still took a bit longer for every lesson itself. I switched back to one display, so I had to alt tab back and forth between the video and my Power Apps environment. But it's a bit harder when they say, oh, you drag this here. You have to manually add all these in. We have to give them names. In the video, they would say, oh, change the font. And you would have to go to the right and then look and see, oh, where is the font? While they were going on changing other stuff. So it was a lot of back and forth. But once you get the hang of it, you've made a few, then you know when they say, oh, change the font, you're like, oh, I need to do this here. So in the end, once you got used to it, it was almost the same as making the model-driven app. And here in the videos, we can see that we started making it. So create the Canvas app. So we create the Canvas app, and then we connect the data we used in the previous week so that we're building on the same solution. So at least you know in your mind how the app works. One thing to keep in mind is that the videos can be quite old. I think these might be a year old. They updated some of them with the new UI changes in Power Apps. We see some forms here. You can include an image and do those things. But if I go to my current solution, if I were to do share, then it would just look different. You have a different UI, and that's what happens with these tools. They can change them. Microsoft could make a video, and then the next month they change something, and then the video is not accurate anymore. That's something that can happen in this course. If you are stuck, you can use the Power Apps community or wait for the Q&A. So because I thought last week I had to put in lots of hours, I also planned lots of time. I completed this course and I had a lot of time left over. So I continued working on the next one with the Power Automate flows. And we have the Q&A for this on Wednesday. But this was a lot shorter. The videos were way shorter. You see it 1 minute, 6 minutes, 9 minutes. The longest one was an hour, but it's a demonstration video of how to use Copilot. And then we actually started working on the Power Automate flow. And I already used Power Automate to automate some email coming in, getting the attachment, and then sending it to my OneDrive. So I was familiar with the UI, and then it went a lot faster. So because it was a lot less work, I'll quickly go over it. So here in the Power Apps, we have our Cloudflow. You can see I had to test it a couple of times. It ran pretty fast. Eventually it sends an email. You have to use your own email for it because the test environment you have doesn't have the Outlook access. And here's a quick overview of the flow. So you add things in, you get data, combine some tables together. And here we have a condition, which is an if-else code, and they explain it quite good in the videos. So again, this one was quite short, and as you can see, I already completed it, so I'm a week ahead, so to say. So last week I thought, oh, I will lose track because it's so much work, but now it seems to be that I'm ahead. And I also kept track of how long it took, and the Cloudflow part only took me 3.5 hours. And you can even see I started on the Power BI course, which is the next one. We can see it here, so we're currently in week 3. So I'm supposed to do the Power Automate Cloud Flows. I've done those. And I already started on Power BI. And what I did there, I looked at the videos. They explained what Power BI was. I used it a couple of times, so I know how it works. I understand dashboarding a bit, just not that good at making good visuals. Here we had the part download Power BI desktop, so I went through that, I set it up, and then I quickly set up a small part so that I have something to start off with. So if I now want to continue, I just open up Power BI, I'm immediately in there, and that's a good way to get yourself going and keep yourself going. Because you can immediately start. It's not that I take some time out of tomorrow. I plan like 2 hours and then I sit down. I want to start. I want to do something. And then I first have to install Power BI, have to wait for it, have to log in. That's just annoying. I just set it up so that start a Power BI and immediately start working on this course. So this one seems a bit longer, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. That's okay. That's doable. You can just do a lesson, 1 or 2, and then save your work and go back later. That seems to be the last one. And then it's off to the Power Up Challenge. And something extra I did this week, which is not in the Power Up program, but I went to an event on Power Platform in Belgium. So it's a Power Platform Bootcamp. It was a free event and they organize it globally. Yeah, it's a small conference. People do presentations on what they did in Power Platform or some techniques or tools they ran into. They talked about testing a lot, which is not something that's in the Power Up program, but it could be very beneficial once you start making apps. And they were the Belgium community, so they were pretty active. They have some other events coming up. And this is something I can highly recommend if you're interested in learning more about Power Platform or even other tools. Just go to events that are locally. You can check out Meetup. That's where they usually post them, or LinkedIn. So that was it for this week's video. As you can see, I'm like 3/4 of the way through the Power Up Maker course. But after that, I have the Copilot courses and the Introduction to AI Builder. But once I complete this one, I can unlock the other ones and work through that. But I also have the Power Up Challenge that I have to work through. And I'll make a separate video on how I will start that. If you have anything you want me to check out in the Power Platform environment, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.